Really, what you're getting in the book of Mark is exactly that. It is a journey of following Jesus to find out for yourself who Jesus is. Welcome to Teach Through the Word, the podcast for Bible teachers. Chris Langan with you again. With me is Peyton Jones.
Hey,
Peyton, how you doing? And in the
I'm
producer's
good.
chair, Jonathan Ferguson. You can't talk over me. We just started.
I know.
Jonathan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right. We're going to keep rolling. This is episode 1. Today we dive into the book of Mark to take a look at the heart of this book and how we approach teaching it. We are here to equip you, Bible teachers, to do what you do better, and together with you to elevate the craft of Bible teaching. This is your place to get equipped, get trained, and while you're at it, get a behind-the-scenes look here at Through the Word. So here we are, behind the scenes, episode 1. Peyton, how you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm excited. How are you doing?
I'm actually very excited. This, we have to admit, is actually take 2 on this, and I am very excited about our new approach to this. And I'm stoked to get back into the book of Mark. I actually listened to myself. I know it's kind of a weird thing to listen to yourself teach, but I just listened to myself on double speed mode all the way through the book of Mark, and I remembered how much I enjoyed putting together the teaching for this book, and I'm very excited to open up.
Well, Chris, you're the teacher that everyone knows from Through the Word. But what we kind of want to do today is we want to really get behind those doors in the kitchen. You know, your food comes out, it's prepared, it's nice, but we want to see how the food's made, right? We want to see you taking raw ingredients. And how we're going to do that is we're going to start with the book of Mark today. And that's our first stop in the journey, in our journeys and through the Word. And so what we thought we'd do is kind of follow through. And today we're in Mark. It's our maiden voyage. So I want to ask you first off, what it was like to teach the book of Mark.
So the book of Mark, the teaching that you actually listen to on Through the Word is probably my 4th time through the book of Mark. So you're getting a product. You're getting my journey multiple times through, and every time I teach through, I refine, I redo. It was actually my 2nd time teaching for Through the Word. I re-recorded most of that journey. So you're getting the final result on a long process. But I love the book of Mark, and I love where it landed. And where it landed for me was a journey following Jesus. As I walked through Mark multiple times, and I keep my notes every time I teach through. I've got a 3-ring binder of my multiple journeys through Mark's gospel. And each time I went through, I saw more patterns. I heard Mark's voice more clearly, and I connected with Jesus and followed with the journey. And really what you're getting in the book of Mark is exactly that. It is a journey of following Jesus to find out for yourself who Jesus is. And that's what I saw again and again as I kept opening up the book of Mark and preparing to teach. And at first I was really approaching it from teaching each story, each parable one at a time, and it was disconnected joints. But as I taught through it, as I look back over my messages previously, as I taught through it again, I saw those themes, those mega themes rise to the top. And really it is about Jesus, and it is answering the question, who is Jesus? And you don't answer it as Mark telling you a definitive statement on Jesus. You get those things in the epistles. In Colossians, we're going to see this is who Jesus is. Mark really just opens up with a very short statement. This is the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And that's a very short statement on who he is. But once he gets that statement out of the way, you really just get entered into a storyline where Mark gets to say, well, check it out for yourself. Let's follow along with the disciples to find out who Jesus is. And that is the heart of the book.
That's one of the things that I love about the book of Mark is you really are coming along for the ride and experiencing Jesus in the way that the people back then did. And Mark, for some reason, perhaps because he was late to the game, He was there, but he also was a spectator who heard about him, and he brings us up to speed, and we drop into that journey. And I think it's fair to say that for all of us that came to faith, we could all probably have that book preached to us, and we would meet Jesus at a different point in that gospel. That's what makes it so exciting. But I wanted to
Mm,
dig a little bit deeper into something that you said about keeping the key to the book in mind. And I know that's a real passion of yours, is
right.
making sure that you understand. I mean, I've seen you train teachers. I've watched you over the years. I've learned from you with through the word. You've mentored me in how to teach that. It's a very unique way to approach something. But one thing you always talk about is finding the heart of the book. So
Mm.
as you walk us through as teachers, what it looks like to teach a gospel like Mark or any book of the Bible, why is it important to find the heart of the book, and how did you find it in Mark?
That's a really good question. In my philosophy on teaching, one of your primary jobs is to connect the heart of the listener with the heart of the book or the heart of the message. The heart, not that you bring to it. Of course, you bring yourself into it, but God has a heart for this message from the beginning. God put this in the Bible for a reason. So one of my first jobs before I ever step into the pulpit, before I sit in front of the microphone, is to discern, why did God put this here? What is God communicating to us so that I can know what I want to communicate? So I come to the book, and of course you can come to Mark and want to teach one of the stories. You can come to it and look at each of these great stories, these powerful teaching. You can teach one of the parables. You can teach Jesus walking on the water. You can teach him healing and the power of God working through his healing. But as you teach through those, you begin to see a pattern, and seeing that pattern, you begin to see repetition. Those repetitions bring you to something. Jesus keeps referring to himself as Son of Man. Why do I keep seeing that phrase? And for me, part of that process of finding is these little magical tools right here. If you watch it on the video, I bring colored pencils every time I open my Bible. I actually print my own version, put it in a 3-ring binder, and I use these colored pencils. And when I see a repeated phrase, when I see Son of Man, that's underlined in my Bible in dark blue. So in blue, I keep seeing Jesus keeps repeating that. And if you look at where he repeats it, he says it at key moments. It's actually a little bit awkward in English when Jesus refers to himself in the third person as the Son of Man. But in chapter 4, when he says, so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. He's making a profound statement in the midst of that story that stands out above the rest. You need to know who this Son of Man is, and that stands out for you. In chapter 8, which is really at the heart of the whole book of Mark, when Jesus says to the disciples so nonchalantly, who do people say that the Son of Man is? Who do people say? And or who do people say that I am? That question that he's asking, really given nonchalantly, is the heart question of the whole book. Who is Jesus? And you'll find that again in actually back in chapter 4 when he walks on water, and no, when he calms the storm. The story of the calming the storm, that the disciples ask, "Who is this?" And that's a big question. Who is this? So all of that, put it together, I see those themes rising to the top. Son of Man, and who is this? And it goes from beginning to end. And you see it in the trial of Jesus when the only questions that he will answer are about who he is. Suddenly all of that comes together. And I would actually say in my process, I didn't catch that until at least the second time around teaching through it. But as I saw it, it changed the way I taught, so that I kept bringing the focus where Jesus was bringing the focus on who he is. And so that becomes the focus of my teaching. But rather than just answer that, I ask it the same way that the gospel asks it. When the disciples ask the question, who is this? I step back with them in awe of Jesus calming the storm and ask, who is this? So I think that should answer for you the big question on the heart. It's a process, but I can't skip the process for my listeners. If I skip the process and say, hey guys, I found the answer to Mark, it's who is Jesus, got the answer, then I could be done with the book in 30 seconds. but you're not. They need to go through the process after I've gone through it. So I lead them through it.
That's one of my favorite things about watching you teach through the word. And teaching through the word is not quite like teaching in the pulpit, although there's a lot of
Right.
crossover. But one of the things that I really love that you do is you react. And I know you and I talk about this, and I'm like, I love how you reacted to that. Like, whoa, what does that mean? And when you've taught through passages or read passages so many times, you can lose that sense of awe and wonder. And that's something you've talked to me about, even as you've coached me through some of the, like, hey, don't
Mhm.
forget some of these people, they've never been through Chronicles or First Kings before. This is new to them. And one of the things that I'm really hearing in you now, and this is part of the really exciting thing about this series, is as you're talking, you're getting animated. Now, you're
Yeah.
not always the most animated. I mean, you're funny. You and I joke all the time. We laugh, but you get really animated when you talk about these things. Like you get
I am an
excited.
engineer. And when I put my engineering
And a
hat
math
on,
tutor.
and I'm a math teacher, so I'm not always the most animated person, but my animated side comes out in this, and it's trying to bring out from the listener that same experience. And when you talk about that reacting to the text, for me, that's a key teaching method that I like to use, and it comes from empathy, which we'll talk about in the Teaching Basics series. From empathy, it's putting yourself in the pew with your audience and getting it from their perspective, and you got to remind yourself this is their first time through. So if you're in the chair with them, you have to remember, oh wait, give them a moment to react. Jesus says some very striking things, and it's purposefully striking. When Jesus says things to challenge you, like when he says your sins are forgiven, and the Pharisees, like you can hear, well, you've got to get yourself not only in their shoes in the story, but also in your audience's shoes. Like, can Jesus forgive sin? Like, give them a second to process that, and give them and help them to put themselves in the shoes of the Pharisees who are saying, "What can he do that?" Put them there in the scene and let them react. Wait a second, because that
Yeah.
is the key to that story. Because Jesus says, "I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins."
Well, hey, thanks for letting us pick your brain a little bit today on the heart of the book of Mark. And I'm going to let you close us out.
Yeah, we are out of time for episode 1. We got 4 more episodes on the book of Mark, so we will be coming back for the rest of this week as we get into the context of the book of Mark in part 2. And then part 3, we are going to get into the content and actually dive into some of those stories and how we craft a message for each of those stories. I'll share some of my process. And before we're done this week, we'll have some assignments for you. But we got to close out this episode. Thanks, guys, for joining us. That will do it for episode 1 in the book of Mark. Thanks for joining Teach Through the Word, the podcast for Bible teachers. Each week here at Through the Word, we bring you one Bible book or one teaching essential. And occasionally we'll also have some guest teacher interviews with some of our favorite Bible teachers as we equip you, Bible teacher, to do what you do better, and together with you to elevate the craft of Bible teaching. Peyton, thanks for joining me. Jonathan, thanks for joining us in the producer's chair. Great work as always. We will see all of you back here next time.